What's going on, everybody? It is that time again, the Sooners Illustrated podcast, episode 189.
189.
On this Monday, July 7th, 2025. Josh Callaway, James D. Jackson with you on a Monday, a suddenly very impactful Monday. Huge breaking news this morning as Oklahoma Athletic Director Joe Castiglione is retiring at the end of this year or sometime in this upcoming academic school year. We'll obviously break it all down. That's the huge news of the day. James and I will react to it. We'll pull it apart as the big news on this Monday in the summer. You're always good for at least one or two of these just, kind of bombshell news in the middle of summer. Happens every year. And we got it today with Joe C stepping aside. And we'll talk about that, obviously, in detail. We'll have to catch up on some other football stuff as well. We've got a bunch of other sports stuff to catch up on as well. Women's hoops, diamond sports, some portal moves there. So we'll kind of hit on a lot of things here on the program. On a Monday, Tom Green on vacation, so just James and I hanging out with you. Obviously, we're moving deeper into July. Media days are next week, so we got a lot of stuff going on here in the upcoming future. But James, like I said, without further delay, got to get into the big news of the day. Joe Castiglione has been the athletic director since July of 1998.
Man,
a very long time for many OU fans. The only athletic director that they know, right? I mean, their whole life, my whole life, essentially. Joe Castiglione has been the AD at Oklahoma. He is going to retire. It was originally reported by Pete Thamel with ESPN. It has since been confirmed by the university. He's going to meet with the media tomorrow morning, Tuesday at 9 a.m. That press conference will be available right here on the Sooners Illustrated Oklahoma 24/7 Sports YouTube channel after it finishes up. James, I mean, just start with just the initial reaction for you. Again, it's one of those weird things because it's a surprise in that I don't know if anybody was anticipating this popping today, but I think we all kind of thought, like, Joe Castiglione's getting into his late 60s, like the end was approaching. When would that be, though? And obviously it's going to be now. He's going to finish out, it looks like, almost certainly this football season and possibly this entire school year. But here coming up, by this time next year, certainly, Oklahoma's going to have a different AD for the first time in almost 30 years. I mean, react to it, man. I mean, this is obviously a huge deal and some big news, obviously, here on a Monday.
And, when you talked about it, I mean, it's been so long, 28 years. I mean, for the majority of my life, that's exactly who I have seen as the athletic director for Oklahoma. And I think, like, when you go back and look at his resume with the 26 national titles overall, just through all the sports that he's helped produce for this university, he's like the guy that you say of Oklahoma, who kind of built this. You kind of can point to Joe Castiglione. I mean, he's been the guy for so long. And it's just incredible that when he got hired, you look at Oklahoma football may have been down a little bit that in that late 90s situation.
Definitely was.
And he brings them up to where they were, in the 2010s, the 2000s team. Bob Stoops gets a lot of credit for what Oklahoma has done, but it's Joe Castiglione was the one that hired him, the one that got all that together. And I think looking at it now with the momentum that Oklahoma has built in this offseason, that he's leaving it better than he found it. I mean, even though Oklahoma's had the little past 2 down years in football, he's left Oklahoma better than he found it, because you talk about the 8 softball titles and what he's done with the Final Four appearances for the men's and women's basketball as well. It's been a really good run for him. It's been a really good run. I mean, a long time, 28 years. And to be, that good for that long, I mean, you got to tip your hat to him, man. And I can't wait to see what he says at this press conference on Tuesday, getting to talk to him and see, what's going through his mind. What are the next plans? Do they have somebody that could be a successor in mind? Just because it's like, who's it going to be now? It's like, do you want to follow that up? A guy that's done so well for this university. So pretty shocking in terms of at the time that he made the call, but not shocking overall, as you said, that this is a guy that you were assuming was going to retire eventually, in the coming years or so. So, man.
Yeah, no doubt. It's very similar to whenever Bob Stoops announced his retirement. It was the middle of summer, and it was kind of one of those things that it's just hard to imagine anybody else doing that job. That's how it felt when Bob stepped away. Like, someone else is going to coach OU football like that. That's crazy, because that's just, for so many of us, that was all we knew, and that was the reality for so long. It's crazy to think that someone else is going to be the AD at Oklahoma. I mean, this is a guy, Joe Castiglione, who is as respected nationally as anyone. One of the longest tenured ADs in major college sports. I mean, 30 years almost. That's a long time to be at a place like Oklahoma, and he's a name that's known across the country. It's a guy who's been on the CFP committee. He's been the chair of the March Madness NCAA tournament committee, served on the baseball committee. Like, the guy has worn a lot of hats, literally and figuratively, with the fedora over his career. I mean, he's extremely well known and well respected across college sports and across sports really in general. So it's a massive change. It's not like he's leaving today, right? He's going to oversee the search for his successor, who will step in. And in that Pete Tham report, he referred to that Joe is planning to kind of stay around as the athletic director emeritus, right? Like, he's still going to be, around the university and around, the athletics department, even after his run as the full-time AD is over. But it's stunning, obviously, because again, it's not that he comes completely out of nowhere, because we all thought, like, probably in the next couple of years, like, this is probably the end of the road for him. He's just getting up there in age and all that stuff. But it's still, just to actually see it, like, Joe Castiglione is retiring. They're going to have to hire a new athletic director at Oklahoma, the guy who's been here pre-Bob Stoops. It's kind of crazy. So we'll see which way they go with it. A lot of people are going to jump out. The obvious name is Zach Selman, right, at Mississippi State, who was here at Oklahoma. Obviously, the Selman name is a big-time name in this state and at this university. I don't know which direction they'll go with as far as a replacement. We'll have a lot of time to talk about that. I mean, he's going to still be around for this football season, this upcoming school year. Like, it's not like Joe's walking out the door today and they got to scramble to find someone to replace him. He's still going to be around for a bit, but it's obviously a huge hire, right? I mean, Joe oversaw the move to the SEC, and obviously all the massive changes in college sports that are going on right now in this new rev sharing model. He's been with Oklahoma every step of the way. Now they have to find someone to kind of step in and fill that void. Very interested, James, in what direction they go here, whether it's from an AD from another school, do they go in-house, do they kind of go off the board completely? Because, I mean, the job of AD is a lot different than it was when Joe took it in the 90s. Like, college sports have changed dramatically since then. So I'm very interested in Joe Harris and the Board of Regents and kind of what they're going to be looking for in their next guy. And that's something that I imagine we'll hear tomorrow at the press conference, getting to hear from President Harris. Where do they look? Like, what are they going to value in their next guy? Because, again, it's a very different job than what you would normally associate with an AD now. So it's going to be fascinating. This is a big, another kind of fork in the road moment for Oklahoma sports, kind of nailing this AD hire. It's going to be very, very interesting.
That's a pretty good pull too, Josh. I mean, the Selman. I mean, that's a pretty good name to really think about. Because it's only been a couple of hours since this happened. I know you're going to see it probably later when the podcast comes out, but it's only been a couple of hours. So to pull that name was a pretty good, I think, overall, because he was kind of detrimental, not detrimental, but he was the one that kind of led the search for Jeff Lebby to get him from Oklahoma to Mississippi State, and they've done really well in other sports as well. Like I know they're down in football, but they had a really good softball team, had a pretty good basketball team, a basketball team that upset Oklahoma's women's basketball team this year. So like he has some on his resume there. So that's pretty good pull, I think. But we're just speculating. We have no idea who it's going to be.
Sure. Yeah. And when Zach was at Oklahoma, there was a lot of people that kind of had him earmarked as potentially the guy to succeed Joe Castiglione eventually. But then whenever he takes the Mississippi State job, everyone kind of thought, well, is he still the guy? Is this a sign that maybe Joe Castiglione is going to be around longer than we think? I mean, this is, going on just not even a couple of years ago now for Zach going to Mississippi State. And obviously he brings Jeff Lebby with him to coach football, which, we know all that. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of other names. I mean, when you've been around for as long as Joe C has, there's a lot of people that he has, under his tutelage that have Oklahoma ties that make sense. I mean, there's a laundry list of names. And there's a laundry list of names in-house, too, that they could potentially promote to the job. And so I'm just interested. I'm interested in what direction Oklahoma's looking, what makes sense, and how much is Joe going to be involved. It sounds like quite a bit. I would think he's going to be around to help find the successor. It's just, they bring in Jim Nagy and the whole football. We're moving into a totally different era of Oklahoma. Obviously, college sports in general, everyone knows that, but Oklahoma too. Like everything we kind of know is kind of changing. It's kind of wild. But yeah, the huge news of the day: Joe Castiglione set to retire again. not effective immediately. He's going to be around potentially, it sounds like, for this entire upcoming school year. I would think certainly for the football season, as we'll get more of kind of the nuts and bolts and the details tomorrow at the press conference, which again, you can watch here on the YouTube channel. But yeah, last go around for Joe C, who's just, again, been around really for both of our basically whole life and a lot of OU fans. There's a whole generation of OU fans that only know Joe C as their AD, and he's moving on. Pretty crazy stuff on a Monday. But
it's nice that he's getting his Kobe Bryant like curtain call season.
Yeah.
Can kind of praise him a little bit of football games, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool for him.
For sure. And it'll be interesting too, because I know a lot of OU fans, I think Joe C is still pretty favorably viewed among the fan base, but there's been a lot last couple of years, specifically with other sports, right? Is the investment there in baseball? Is the investment there in hoops? Obviously we know it is in softball, but isn't there in the other sports? I'm curious. There's another thing that hopefully maybe we'll learn tomorrow, maybe we won't. Is the emphasis going to be 100% on football here, or are they going to look for someone who has a feel for other sports? That's something that Zach Selman has done a nice job at Mississippi State, the baseball program, and like that. That's another thing that I think I know certainly being tapped into the OU baseball fan base, being around covering that team for a long time, that there's been frustrations with this regime, with the investment in baseball. Is that something that's going to be more of an emphasis on the next hire, or maybe not, right? I mean, these are all things that we're going to learn in due time. And we'll have lots of coverage on this. Again, this is the very beginning of the process. I don't anticipate a hire is going to be made here for quite a while. This is going to probably be a months-long search as they're going to kind of exhaust every avenue, and we'll figure it out. And I'm curious certainly to get Colin Kennedy's thoughts and Tom Green's thoughts whenever we're able to do so as well on a seismic change for OU sports here today. Joe Castiglione set to retire, 27 years the AD. This is his 28th year. Pretty crazy. As he calls it, a career as the AD at Oklahoma. But more coverage to come over as soon as they'll show you at Oklahoma247sports.com. Stay plugged in. We'll let you know developments as they come up again over this. What's probably going to be a months-long search. And the press conference tomorrow, more coverage to come from that tomorrow morning. James and I will be there in Norman to hear from Joe, President Harris, and kind of all the reasoning for the timing and what the search process, all that. We'll have a lot more details tomorrow. So be sure to be plugged into the site and on the YouTube channel tomorrow morning for all the coverage from Norman on that. As far as the football team, looking ahead to the season, we've been doing this last several weeks, kind of look ahead, getting excited for the start of the year. This is just classic offseason fodder stuff, but it is kind of fun to talk about. EA Sports College Football 26 comes out this week. I think it came out actually today. If you pre-ordered, you got like the deluxe edition or whatever. I don't know.
I heard that was that's the case. Yeah.
I'm too cheap for all that. I'll get the regular later this week, but it comes out everywhere. I think on Thursday. If you don't have it now, you'll have it by Thursday for sure. So we got the official team ratings, the player ratings, all that good stuff. Oklahoma's number 17 overall in their preseason rankings. I know it's a video game, like I get that, but this is also probably a pretty good indication of where Oklahoma's going to be in the AP poll. I would imagine it'll probably be somewhere in this same ballpark. You also got the player ratings. They were ranked the number 8 toughest place to play in the game this upcoming season. Anything that stands out to you at all, whether it's their ranking, a player rating, I mentioned the toughest place to play, just anything that jumps out to you at all from the EA Sports rating. Because again, I know it's a video game, so it seems silly, but it is like a little bit of a barometer of like where Oklahoma's looked at nationally going into the year. Like it does kind of give you a little idea because we're so close to it. Sometimes it's hard to know like what's the feel around the country for Oklahoma is. This kind of gives you a little bit of an idea.
And that's a fun thing about SEC Media Days as well. Like you said, the same thing. You
100%.
Gauge what everybody really thinks about Oklahoma. And I think this is kind of an early indication because there's not many teams that can have the season that Oklahoma had last year with the record that they put up and the turmoil, I guess you could say, with the coaching changes and things like that, quarterback changes, all those different things, injuries, and to come back and be ranked number 17. I mean, that's a really good starting point for Oklahoma. I think it shows that people really believe in the transfer that they brought in this past season. You mentioned John Mateer and Jaden Ott, those type of guys, the wide receivers they brought in. It was all about this offense is just not where it's supposed to be. And I think it shows that many people are thinking, I think Oklahoma addressed, the issues they had in the offseason, which was on the offensive side of the ball. The defensive side is going to be more, more prominent. They played really well last season, as Brent Venables loves to talk about, as they covered the most snaps by any team in the country last season because the offense was so bad. Pretty much, they had to cover so much, and just bringing all that back, the experience that they're going to have with the talent that they're going to have, it's a pretty good indication. I know it's like you said, just a video game, not the actual AP poll or anything like that, but pretty good gauge of what people think of Oklahoma. And I think that's a good sign because I feel like a lot of times Oklahoma fans and people around feel a little slighted by what people think about Oklahoma. So I think this is a good indication for where they're at, number 17. See what happens from now on, I think.
Yeah, this continues a really weird trend this offseason of I think that the national perspective of Oklahoma is a little bit higher than the local, which is totally backwards.
It's different.
How it usually is. Yeah. You mentioned it. I feel like OU fans generally feel like they don't get enough love nationally, and that OU fans, generally speaking, and it's true of most fan bases, but generally speaking, have a much more rosy glow of their team and their program than the national perception. I legitimately feel like it's totally flipped this offseason. Like, I think OU fans are much more pessimistic than I've really ever seen in my time around the program, which is essentially my whole life. And nationally, I mean, this continues the hype train. I mean, what stands out to me, number 17 sounds about right? Let me start there.
Yeah.
But offensively, the number 14 ranked offense in the game is Oklahoma's. Number 14. John Mateer is the highest rated player on Oklahoma's roster. He's a 91 overall. He's one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the game. Jay Knott is their second highest rated player, a 90 overall, one of the highest running backs in the game. Like, it just continues this hype train of what Oklahoma's offense is going to be. Again, we keep making this disclaimer. It's a video game, but it gives you an idea of what – I mean, it's not like these things are done in a vacuum. It's all part of the national perception. Just the idea of the Oklahoma offense getting tabbed by anyone as a top 15 offense going into the year is kind of stunning. Now, the defense is ranked 17th. Now, the defense actually has a higher rating. Like, the score rating is higher, but it's ranked lower because obviously it's all relative to the other defenses. So it's considered better than the offense, but it's actually ranked lower relative to the other defenses in the sport. But it's kind of crazy. I mean, it gives you an idea of where the hype is. And this offseason, seeing national media, whether it's, certainly with our guys at 24/7 or CBS or other companies or wherever, EA Sports now certainly in the mix, there's a lot of belief and hype around John Mateer and this OU offense being significantly better, and not just significantly better, but legitimately good. I mean, number 14 offense is not just like good, it's quite good. I mean, one of the best in the country. So again, it's offseason fodder, but it just continues this trend. I mean, the hype train, it's almost funny how from the winter through the spring and like each passing month of the summer, it feels like the hype has gotten without even anything happening. Like, we're in the middle of summer, but it's like it just keeps growing for John Mateer and this OU offense to be really special. It's exciting. It's exciting, but we'll see.
I think it's like you can kind of see how the other Oklahoma players are talking about John Mateer and how the coaches are talking about John Mateer. There can be coach speak sometimes when they're trying to figure things out, but it seems like they really, really believe in the talent of John Mateer, and he put it on tape last season as well. So like, it's all there for Oklahoma. If he's phenomenal, Oklahoma's going to be in a lot of really big games this season because I think a lot of people trust Brent Venables and what he can do with the defense. If they don't have to, cover so many plays throughout a game and get tired and worn down over time, I think he has the right, tools to do that. So I think more people are seeing it, and it's just maybe just because what happened to Oklahoma last year, it made them really interesting. And the national guys are just like, let me pay attention this time and see, what I mean? Like, maybe that's what it is. But I think it's just a fun little idea overall. Number 17 is pretty cool.
No doubt. I'm getting fired up for the season. I forgot the countdown off the top. It's 54 days until the opener. SEC Media Days are next week. Tom and I are going to be in Atlanta, so we're going to have a lot of coverage from Atlanta for SEC Media Days. I mean, we're getting, again, I say it every show, like, we're still a ways off. We still have a lot of summer in front of us, but 54 days, SEC Media Days are next week. Big 12 Media Days are actually this week, which is pretty nuts. I mean, those are one of the benchmarks of the summer. Like, you get to the 4th of July and you get past that, and then it's Media Days and all that stuff starts getting rolling in the different conferences. You're starting to get the football fever a little bit, and we're getting there. Just another benchmark with the video game coming out this week. Like, it's another benchmark, and we're excited for SEC Media Days coming up next week. 54 days from the season opener.
I mean, just nice. those ratings. I know we didn't touch on them a lot, but like you said, a 91 for John Mateer, a 90 for Jay Nott, a defense that's around the top 15. That's a really good team for players to use. Oklahoma overall, like throughout the game.
The national guys, the national guys who get to play the game early, a lot of them said that Oklahoma is one of the most fun teams to use because John Mateer's got a cannon, he can run around, and Jay Nott, like, I think they'll be a favorite.
Yeah, I can think in terms of video games, that's a pretty good, squad.
Anytime you get a quarterback that can move, it's a little bit of a cheat code, like Michael Vick on Madden back in the day. Like, you can just run around, like nobody can touch him. Gonna be fun. Looking forward to it. Fall camp, all that good stuff. Approaching media days next week. Looking forward to that. Very curious to see who they send to media days, by the way. I assume John Mateer will be there. I mean, that's a given.
It's got to happen.
But then the other two, like Troy Everett, maybe, and then like maybe Kobe McKenzie, just do the
I think Kobe gets it. Yeah. And Kobe's a great talk. Yeah, Kobe's a great you got to talk to as well.
Or Mason, maybe. Robert Spears Jennings, maybe. Kip Lewis, maybe. I mean, there's a few. Interested though. We should get that.
How many week. Is it 3 guys or 4 guys usually? I can't remember.
3 last year.
3 last year. Yeah.
It'll be 3 again.
Yeah.
Because last year it was Jackson, Arnold, Stutzman, and then Billy Bowman. 3 last year. So I assume it'll be the same, but I guess we'll find out. Hopefully we find that out this week. I would think.
So this is coming up, man.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of sneaking up. Like, it really kind of hit me like yesterday. I was kind of, just sitting around, and it was like, man, that is next week. Like, I need to book my flight. Like, this is kind of getting crazy.
Are you booked now though? You're situated, right?
I haven't booked a flight yet. I have a hotel.
Oh man, yeah,
I know. Been dragging on it. I'll do it. I'm not too worried about flights to Atlanta. Not too hard to come by. But we're looking forward to that. Tom and I are going to be out there in Atlanta, and we'll have obviously full boots on the ground coverage. Oklahoma's on Wednesday next week, July 16th. And so we'll have lots of coverage. It's going to be a full day for us. But we'll look forward to that a little bit more next week, certainly, as we get ready for SEC Media Days and the start of fall camp and the start of the season, which is just 54 days away. Let's do some other sports. We actually have a few things to talk about here. We're going to kind of bounce around. Let's start with women's hoops. James, they signed a French prospect. We're going to try our best to not completely butcher the name here. Daffa Cissoko is what I'm going to go with.
That's a good one. That's good.
I gave it a shot. 6'4" French prospect signed with Oklahoma last week. I don't expect you to have seen a lot of Daffa Cissoko.
Correct.
This French player, this international signing, but some thoughts here. I mean, this just seems like a pretty notable addition. I mean, 6'4" is, good length and things like that. And you go overseas and add a prospect. Anything that jumps out to you when you had the story on Sooners Illustrated, anything that stuck out to you when kind of looking into Cissoko here and the addition for Oklahoma women's hoops?
I think just seeing what we saw overall from her, I think she has all the tools to be a really good player for Oklahoma. A 6'4", which is it's the same height as Reagan Beard. So if you want to gauge how tall it is,
that's good.
That's exactly where it is. And so she comes from a really good family. Her brother, City Cissoko, I hope I'm saying that right. He plays for the Portland Trail Blazers just recently, and her father played, overseas for the Senegal men's basketball team back in the 1980 Summer Olympics. And so she has that like family around her that knows how to play really high level basketball. And I think that helps out a lot for coming over here to a whole different country and having to play what I think is going to be high level basketball for Oklahoma this season. Now, I mean, you look at everything that she did and accomplished. She was on an undefeated team in the FIBA section of her time playing over there. And it's just been really good for her overall. So I think it's a really, really good situation for Oklahoma. I mean, there was a lot of talk about how Oklahoma hadn't done anything in the transfer portal.
Right.
And now you add, 2 really good players in this 2025 class with Emma Tolan from, Ireland. And now you get, Cissoko from France. That's the first time that's happening overall. A player from France coming over to play. So that's a pretty cool situation. I mean, they're both really useful players. And Jenny Baranczyk said they're not going to have the 14, players that they had last year. It's not going to be that many. She's like, you can't really sustain that in this landscape of college basketball. And so maybe I think that could be the conclusion of what they do, because that gets them at about 10 or 12. I can't remember what I wrote in the story. It's it's on there if you want to look for it. But it's a really good situation for them overall because it's not too many players, but you also have a lot of talent alongside them. And in these young freshman class, Aaliyah Chavez is leading the way of that. I mean, Keziah Lofton and Brooklyn Stewart, I mean, those 4-star guards are coming along as well. 4-star guard and forwards come along as well. It's a pretty good situation for Oklahoma overall with Reagan Beers, who just won a gold medal yesterday, by the way. We should point that out. Congrats to her.
Yeah.
And Baranchik winning a gold medal over there in the America Cup. I mean, it's a really good situation overall for them. So, what are you thinking about that? I mean, you looking at the size of Cissoko and what she can bring to this team. What are you thinking about it?
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, you have to go overseas and to pull multiple players this offseason. It's kind of, I mean, just the momentum of the program and Jenny Baranchik. I mean, that's cool to be able to do, not once but twice in the same offseason. We talked about at the end of last year, you're bringing a lot of production back from this year's team. So you didn't need to add much. Yep. This freshman class is really exciting. It's just another kind of tool in the toolbox, and this, you can't teach size, right? I mean, that's a cliche, but, 6'4" certainly stands out when you're looking at what she could possibly bring to the table, whether it's this year or even down the road. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, same height as Reagan Beers. I mean, that certainly catches your attention as they look to get more length, because that's something that hurt them in the past, right? Not having that size. Yep. Reagan Beers was a perfect addition in that regard. And now you're kind of recruiting that that you need to be able to do, right? So exciting though, an exciting pickup here, an interesting one. I think one that turns some heads, like, 6'4" French girl being signed with Oklahoma. Pretty cool. So we'll keep an eye on that. But a fun addition there for Jenny Baranchik and OU women's hoops.
And like I said, comes from a very good basketball family. So you would expect there to be high IQ from her coming in. Just from what she's seen watching them and maybe playing against them in the backyard or, on the pavement and stuff like that.
Sure.
That type of situation. So
pretty
good overall.
No doubt. So a fun addition there for women's hoops. Sticking with additions, softball. We have the Diamond Sports duo here, so I fear we'll catch up on some portal stuff with softball and baseball. Let's do softball first. It had been a relatively quiet portal cycle. They added the LSU pitcher, that I think most people think is coming in to be the ace of the staff.
Sydney Brazone.
Would they add another one? And they did last week. Ole Miss pitcher, I'm going to hopefully not again butcher your name here, Miali Guachino.
No, it's Miali Guachino. Looks like a W.
All right, I got the last name.
That's how she pronounced it on one of the interviews I looked up to make sure.
Good call. I got the last name close. The first name I totally
yeah.
But so great. Another interesting addition here from inside the SEC. Pretty good numbers last year as a freshman. So she's very young. That's kind of the key element here. 14-11 record, 3.65 ERA, 100 and I think it was 60 strikeouts, 136 innings. So a pretty good K per inning ratio there, obviously. James, I think what most people jump at, and you had, some analysis on Students Illustrated, is that they've got a ton of pitchers, more than normal. Certainly, they're carrying, I think it's 8 now, right? For this upcoming season, which again is a lot.
Yeah.
Where do you see Guachino fitting into the mold? What do you think of the addition? Just, I guess, kind of all of it. Again, a lot of arms here, and going out in the portal and being aggressive to get another pretty coveted arm from inside the SEC when they already had a lot of arms. What do you kind of just make of all of it here with the addition? But it seems like another useful one for Patty Gasso in Oklahoma.
Look, this is the thing that Patty Gasso wanted from this past season before they found out they really couldn't do it because they couldn't find a definite number 2 pitcher.
Sure.
Patty Gasso wanted there to be a strength in numbers approach from the bullpen, and which means they wanted a variety of different ways to beat people and have a variety of different options to use coming out of there. So, like, just this past season, bringing in Sydney Brazone from LSU, who dominates with her drop ball and getting ground balls, and that's going to be a really strength for her because they have the defense behind her. You bring in Guachino, and she has this rise ball and changeup that is just phenomenal. Like, it's like the opposite of what Brazone is, pretty much. And she's a strikeout pitcher, 172 strikeouts this past season. She had 19 strikeouts in one game this year, Josh. I mean, it was her third start.
Yeah.
And she got 19 strikeouts in one game. Like, that is phenomenal. And, like, she was a little let down from her defense a lot of times this year. I know you look at the record of 16-11 and you kind of think, what? I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but her personally, she was that good, which is why D1 softball had her as a freshman All-American. I mean, it's just going to be that situation. I think Oklahoma has these 8 pitchers who all are it can happen for anybody at any time at this point. Now, you don't necessarily think Kirsten Deal is going to have to be your number 2 like last year.
Sure.
It could be anybody. I mean, Audrey Lowry, a year under her belt now, coming back from that muscle strain, she can rise to the top there. I mean, you got a really good pitching class coming in with Alyssa Parker, who we talked about to ad nauseum. She's really, really good. Berkeley Zakay and Sophia Bordy, if she decides to come back, which all signs are pointing to her coming back to Oklahoma as well to be a part of that. It could be a really good pitching staff, and I think it's the vision that Patty Gasso was looking for. Being able to go and strengthen numbers, because you look back at when they won the championship the last time in 2024 against Texas. There were 5 pitchers that pitched in that championship, clinching game. Like, it was like, that's exactly the type of way she wants to beat teams, is be able to throw a bunch of different things, because you can't, it's just so tough to have to scheme against that, to prepare for that. The different settings coming out each inning, it'd be phenomenal for Oklahoma. And I think that's a strength she's looking to do. And I think they have the squad for that so far, just because of who they brought in. Cindy Berzon, as we said, likes to throw a lot of innings. I mean, she could be what Sam Landry was, but if you have players like Miali Guachino coming in, and who they have coming in the 2025 class, it's a recipe for success for Oklahoma, I think, overall. Just the amount of the talents they want, and I think they can do it. So it's a really good deal for Patty Gasso and her squad. And Jennifer Rocha developing the squad can be really good overall.
If you had to take a stab at kind of the pecking order here, I assume that Berzon's your number 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
After that, I mean, are you thinking Deal number 2 or Guachino maybe number 2? I mean, if you had to kind of stack them up, and I know that's hard, but just curious, your opinion on that, because again, it seems like Berzon's pretty clearly like brought in to be that ace of the staff, but I look at the names here and I'm just like, obviously the depth is great, but I'm trying to figure out who's starting games when we actually get to the season, because you're not going to throw 6 pitchers starting games generally. I mean, you might over the course of a full year, but in a weekend series, right, you're probably going to throw Berzon once, maybe twice. Who's going to start that other game, and who's going to be the first one out of the pen? Like, I'm kind of curious. Do you have any kind of gut feel on the pecking order here? Because they've got arms for days now with Guachino in.
Yeah, I think so. Berzon gets the ace, number 1 player overall, I think. And then I think Guachino is number 2 as of right now, because she already has the experience playing against the SEC, and she did really well against the SEC. I think that's kind of like what Oklahoma's looking for, because she's a strikeout pitcher. Like, when you have a strikeout pitcher, you want her to be the one to set the tone. If you're going to play this way, then you can come in and throw in. Like, I think Kirsten Deal couldn't start against certain teams, because there's some teams out there that she's dominated against just throughout her career. Now, she struggles against some, but I think there's some out there she really dominated against, and I think she's going to be the one to go there. But I think then you're going to see, Audrey Lowry, Peyton Monticelli, Alyssa Parker, Berkeley Zackley, Sophia Bordy coming in at different times of the season and just being that reliever. Now, if Sophia Bordy comes out and is as great as she was projected to be, I mean, Josh, she could be number 2. I mean, she was that type of player overall. But with everything up in the air with her right now, I feel like Guachino is the one to look at, overall. And I'm not entirely sure this is a move that Oklahoma was looking to make after they got Cindy Berzon, but like, I was talking to, a couple of sources, and it was over this past weekend that Guachino was in the portal. Like, it was something that a lot of teams were really looking at that time, because when you look at the portal rankings, most of the top players were gone. Guachino was the top, the best one still there. And she entered, I think it was June 17th or something like that. I think I have it on. It's on the story around June 17th. And Oklahoma was like, well, we can't miss out on this. This is a really good situation. And they beat out, South Carolina and UCLA, who UCLA is closer to her home state, her hometown. And so for Oklahoma to do that, it shows that they're going to have, they're going to give her innings is my point. So I feel like her being the number 2 pitcher was one of the selling points. And I think that could help her out and help Oklahoma out down this stretch in this tough SEC schedule.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be interesting. And it might just be a simple case of, who earns it, right? I mean, over the course of fall ball, certainly. But then once we get to the season, I imagine early in the year, pre-SEC play, Patty will work a lot of them in, and just kind of as the season goes on, over the course of the year, who earns kind of being that next one after Berzon, who's pitching well once we get to like the postseason, and things like that. Who has earned that trust is probably a big part of it, and that's the beauty of having this many arms, is that you're not reliant on any one pitcher to stay healthy or perform. Like you have options, right? So a fun addition here, because again, whenever after Berzon, it was pretty quiet. We kind of thought this might be it, right? It might be just a one addition portal cycle. Obviously, softball, they're bringing a lot of their team back from this past year, but to go find another splash this late, getting into July, is quite a find for Patty and the staff. So it'll be fun to keep an eye on. I look forward to getting to the fall for both baseball and softball to kind of get a look at some of these new players and maybe getting a little better idea of kind of how everything stacks up. Fall ball will be interesting. OU fans are always in on softball, even in the fall. Yep. And I think this year will have a little extra intrigue because of these pitchers.
The pitching staff is going to be – that's going to be all the talk for softball. Outside of the first – who's going to be first base, but I think that'll be – you'll see it pretty fast on who's going to be the first baseman. But I think this pitching unit, how they're going to handle that, because you would think that one or two of these players should redshirt, but you can't really play in a game and then redshirt in softball. Like you got to be you can't play anything. So you have to decide that pretty early. So like what's going to happen? How are they going to decide that? I think that's the biggest storyline for Oklahoma. And I think there's still going to be one or two projected to be, who's one or two projected team in college softball next season. I mean, it could be Texas Tech or Oklahoma. I think those are the one or two going into this season. So looking for Oklahoma, who's it gonna be? Looking at all the names and the different skill sets they bring, because even Peyton Monticelli, she throws the hardest on the team. It's just like you have that in your arsenal now. Like you have a player that does that. You have Guachino, who's a strikeout pitcher, but she throws a lot of different movement type of pitches with her screwball, changeup, rise ball. You got Sydney Berzon, who's a ground ball pitcher, like the drop ball. Like there's just so many different ways that Oklahoma can attack you. And I think now that's going to be who's going to start and who it's going to be. So
going to be interesting. Going to be very interesting. But another good addition for softball. Sticking with portal pitching quickly here on the baseball side, just kind of catching up on some portal stuff that they've done. And we talked about it. You're going to lose almost certainly your entire rotation to the draft, which is this weekend, by the way. First round on Sunday, and then the rest is on Monday. So Kais Witherspoon will be off the board on Sunday night. Keep an eye out for that coming up this weekend. But, Kate Crossland, Malachi Witherspoon, Kais Witherspoon, they're all going to likely be selected and sign, into the next, into the professional ranks. So you're going to have to make some additions in the pitching staff. And they've added a lot. Since, we've last talked about it, they added Jackson Cleveland, right-hander from Miami. That is Miami, Florida, the Hurricanes. And then they also added last week UCF right-hander Isaac Williams into the fold as well. So this adds with those two. You also have the JUCO right-hander Brian Orentia, Maryland, Joey McManus, two-way from Mississippi State, Nolan Stevens, and UNLV, LJ Mercurius. That's all portal pitchers that they've added this offseason. So they have just gone heavy on adding portal arms, which, again, you thought they might. You're losing your entire rotation. You have some other – your closer, Dylan Crooks, is also, obviously moving on. Like, you needed some arms. And they've gone heavy in the portal on arms with Cleveland and now Williams, into the fold here. Both guys have a lot of upside, a lot of, interesting things to kind of look into as far as the arm talent. Both guys are growing up into the mid to high 90s. So, there's a lot to be excited about from that perspective. Skip Johnson and his staff, they take arms that they feel like they can work with, right? So, at the very bare minimum, they feel optimistic about what they could get out of them. Yep. And you really only need a few of these guys to hit. But it's been very interesting to see Oklahoma, because we thought they might be aggressive adding pitching. And this is, again, you're talking, how many did I just say? Stevens, Mercurius, McManus, Orentia, Cleveland, and now Williams. That's 6 pitching.
Wow.
That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So they've had a couple offensive guys, like we saw with Broombaugh and then Camden Johnson, Wichita State, but they're bringing the majority of their offense back. A lot of the lineup is going to be back outside of Easton Carmichael and a couple other. The majority of the lineup is still intact from what it was a year ago. So they didn't need a lot there. They added a couple of guys, but they didn't need a lot. Pitching's where they needed help, and they've addressed that. So a very interesting offseason for OU baseball. You just need, hopefully, a couple of these guys to kind of pan out to go with the young arms you have, and obviously the freshmen coming in, all that stuff. But very interesting names here with Jackson Cleveland and Isaac Williams from Miami and UCF. And again, Power 5 arms too, which always is going to jump out. Guys who pitch at the Power 5 level coming in. So some exciting names there to kind of note for OU baseball and what's been a very fruitful portal cycle. They've been very aggressive in this portal cycle, adding a lot of arms. And a couple more into the fold there in the last couple of weeks that we hadn't touched on the program. So I want to make sure to get those in. But exciting and interesting all season for OU baseball as they continue to make additions to their pitching staff. So some things to be excited about there on that side for sure.
Is there one that you think stands out? I mean, I'm not sure how much analysis has been done so far.
Sure.
With them coming in. Is there one that stands out, or is it more of a wait and see situation?
Yeah,
kind of like
I mean, it's hard to know for sure. I definitely think that LJ Mercurius from UNLV, who was the first guy they added, if you made me pick one to be a weekend starter, like most confident, I'd probably say him with what he did with the Rebels and the arm talent. But I mean, that's what's kind of crazy is like all these guys, you don't really know how it's going to pan out. You know, it's so hard to predict. Yep. But like all these guys are very similar in that they're, for the most part, they're bigger right-handers, taller, you know, that length, that arm talent. They can all run up in the mid to high 90s, it seems like. So you can make an argument for a lot of them. I would say Mercurius is probably the most likely to definitely be a weekend guy. But I'm curious on how a lot of these guys shake out. And like, do they envision bullpen for them? And that's something kind of going back to the softball thing we just talked about. I'm very interested for ball to kind of see some of these guys and to kind of get an idea of like the success and what kind of pitchers are they? How do they envision using them? But they've gone heavy into the portal here. But I think Mercurius is definitely the one that jumps out, I think, to most people is like this guy could maybe even be like the Friday guy. I mean, that they got to replace it. You got to find a way to get your ace replaced when Kyson Witherspoon's moving on. I think LJ Mercurius could be that, right? So we'll see. It's an exciting crop of pitchers, though. And I think, again, at the end of the day, Skip Johnson, his ability to develop pitching and find pitchers in the portal and at the JUCO ranks, you kind of just trust that more than likely at least a couple of these guys are going to work out and be big parts of the staff next year. So an exciting crop, certainly for OU baseball there.
That height difference that you talked about it. That makes a big difference, I think. Looking at, because like I used to have to face stuff like that, you know, playing baseball. Those taller pitchers make a difference in terms of how they move and how far the ball, like it just looks different coming out of their hand. I mean, an average right-hander is just going to be over and over. Yeah, but that extension stuff makes a big difference. So that's good on Skip Johnson and their staff to go out and really get guys like that, you know, help out. And we'll see what happens with their pitching staff as well. I mean, it's going to be two really exciting seasons, I think, for both Diamond Sports because of the pitching that's coming in. How are they going to handle different situations? So that's pretty cool.
Right. And they have several kind of taller left-handers that are on the team back from last year too. So we'll have to be kind of encouraged by it. It's a lot of arms. It's kind of like you equate it to like almost like the wide receiver room in football. Like there's a lot of names. Who's going to pan out and be like the guys? I don't know. We'll see. But there's a lot of names, right? A lot of options there. And so we'll be excited to see how that kind of pans out and shakes out over the fall and obviously before we get to next spring and all that good stuff. I think that's it. Be back with Colin later this week. Going to have a lot more recruiting stuff to get into with him. Tyler Ruxer, tight end, committing today. That's the schedule for about a 5:30-ish commitment time. So obviously after this show is posted around 3 o'clock today. So keep an eye out for that coverage over on Sooners Illustrated. Our own Colin Kennedy put in a prediction for Ruxer. So probably some good news coming for Oklahoma later today, potentially. We'll have coverage there. We'll obviously talk about that decision and a lot of other recruiting stuff with CK later this week on Thursday. And then again, SEC Media Days next week in Atlanta. We are getting ever so closer to the start of fall camp and the start of the season. Good stuff over on Sooners Illustrated. Lots of coverage over the course of the summer to help, quench that thirst until the start of the season. And we're getting closer and closer with each passing day. That's it for now. For James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway signing off. See you next time right back here on Thursday, as always, on the Sooners Illustrated podcast.
See you.